Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and as we continue our five-part series entitled Family, today we will focus on family dysfunctions. Family is a group of individuals related by blood, a common bond, or proximity that is overseen by an authorized adult care provider. Dysfunction within a family occurs when the adult care provider is unable, unwilling, not available emotionally, socially, or spiritually, or otherwise to provide proper directions for those under their care. Dysfunction is when the care provider either inflicts or allow other family members to inflict abuse upon the family system, and it becomes the norm. It's the expectancy of family life with other family members attempting to accommodate the dysfunctional behaviors. In essence, the person who's given the responsibility to provide protection and care and nurturing for the family basically abandon their responsibility and either become the dysfunctional individual, or they will allow the dysfunctional individual to take over the family, and then the family makes every effort to accommodate whatever the source of the dysfunction. Family dysfunctions might be internal, or family dysfunctions could be external. Some internal family dysfunctions are ongoing conflict between siblings, parent-to-child conflict, to where the child feels entitled to deal with the parent on a parental level, domestic violence within the family system, mental illness within the family system, undeveloped behavioral expectancies. In other words, the child in the family has not learned proper boundaries. Some external family dysfunctions might be alcohol, drug, or gambling. Those are things that basically take place outside the home that creates a dysfunction within the home. Extramarital affairs takes place outside the home, but it impacts and creates a dysfunction within the home. Unemployment. Unemployment means you're not employed outside the home, which creates a dysfunction inside the home. Influences from any other source that impedes proper family growth external to the home is considered an external dysfunction. For instance, people will say, well, in their home, they do this. They allow this. Their company allows this or that. They said, meaning people external to the home said, I was told by others, etc., etc. These are external things that can create dysfunctions within a home. According to the Center for Disease Control, in a report in 2009, the most common ACEs, or the adverse childhood experiences, that causes long-term dysfunctions are created by the following situations internal to the home. Separated or divorced parents tend to have a higher tendency to develop dysfunctional children. Verbal abuse within a home tends to develop dysfunctional families. Family members with depression or mental illness tends to develop dysfunctional households. Witnesses of domestic violence, to where on and on children and the adults are the witnesses of the domestic violence. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, and imprisonment. According to the CDC, these are the most common adverse childhood experiences which tend more than not to lead these children to to grow up and basically create or replicate their dysfunctional home within their own family. If you could see the graph that I'm looking at now, it is a graph of what I just shared about the adverse childhood experiences. And this graph that I'm looking at, or the chart, looks at the responses of the adults in terms of how the adults who were exposed to these adverse conditions now see life as adults. Quite interestingly, children who were exposed to 4 or more of these adverse childhood experiences tend to have a more difficult time functioning in a normal family environment. And children who are exposed to at least 5 or greater of these adverse childhood experiences even have a more difficult time functioning in a normal environment. So when you look at those adverse childhood experiences of separation and divorce, exposure to verbal abuse, family members with ongoing depression or mental illness, witnessing a domestic violence situation, being exposed over and over again to physical abuse, or being the recipient of sexual abuse, or a family member being incarcerated. As those children grew into adults, it became much more difficult for those now adults to create a healthy home environment. Dr. Dan Newhart, author of If You Had Controlling Parents, he really expands on dysfunctional families. And he uses terms like controlling parents, unhealthy control, or over control throughout this book. And he cites at least 8 signs of unhealthy parents. Conditional love. I will love you if, and I'll take away your love if you don't. Disrespectful parents. Stifled speech. Children not allowed to say anything in the household. Emotional intolerance. Family members not allowed to have an emotional response. Ridicule. Constant put down of the child. Dogmatic or chaotic parenting. Harsh and inflexible discipline. This is just the way it is. I don't care if you only did this or that. This is the severity of it, and this is the severe punishment that you get. There's no grace, there's no mercy. Denial of an inner life. The children are not allowed to develop their own value system. And there's social dysfunction. In other words, there's isolation in that home. Newhart goes on to talk about 8 parent types that breeds dysfunctional homes. Smothering parents, parents who do not allow their children to maintain a separate identity. Using parents, destructive narcissistic parents. It's parents who use their children, but they don't necessarily love their children. Abusing parents, parents who use physical, verbal, or sexual violence. Chaotic parents, these are parents who are unstable and have wildly inconsistent manners with their kids. Perfectionistic parents, parents who are fixated on appearance and order and power. Cult-like parents, parents who feel uncertain and raise their children according to very rigid rules and roles that in the real world make no sense. And depriving parents, parents who control but withhold love. Childlike parents, parents who parentify their children. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 17 and verse 22, the Apostle Paul says, I cannot praise anyone in such behavior. I'll see you back in class again next time. Don't be late and don't skip class.